Hello, hello, my crafty ones, and welcome to Athena the Crafty Witch. Today we are doing a bit of herbal crafting, and we are going to make a salve based on frankincense. So this is Boswellia carterii, which is one type of African frankincense. It is one of the more commercially farmed, if you will, versions of Boswellia, because the Boswellia has just started to recover from a threatened status, and I think now it's declared as near threatened. And Carterii seems to be one of the ones that is making a good comeback. It was overharvested, primarily for the production of essential oils. So that's the first of our ingredients, a carrier oil. I've chosen olive oil and some beeswax pastilles. So those are the three ingredients that we need. You will also need some various tools and supplies to complete this preparation. I'm going to need a couple of glass jars that are heat proof, some either cheesecloth or, in this case, a couple of layers of old cotton sheeting, because I'll have to strain the mixture. A set of measuring spoons, which can be metric or imperial. They're so close to each other, and as long as you use one set or another consistently, they will be fine. A thermometer, something to stir with, a double boiler, water in the bottom, oil in the top, and then a few small tins to store the finished preparation. You will also need something to pulverize or grind the frankincense. I am using an old coffee mill. It's a burr or rotary grinder, and it basically sucks the ground substances down into this holding area below. I've lost the top of it, so I've got a bit of foil for that. Obviously, kitchen tea towels and pot holders will be useful as well. So that's what we need to get going. I want to talk first about the preparation of frankincense. It needs to be ground to a fine powder for this recipe. Frankincense can be very sticky, especially when it's heated up. It is an oleo gum resin. So three components: oleo meaning essential oils, gum, a water-soluble sticky thing, and resin, which is the thickened tears of a tree. And this is Boswellia carterii. So in order to successfully grind it, I work with small batches at a time. This is about the last third of what I need to grind. And I freeze the frankincense for about a half hour before processing it. I also put the grinder in the freezer so that it's all being processed using cold surfaces. And I only do a small amount because, friction is going to activate the stickiness of the resin more than the gum, because we're not involving water. And it's very easy to have all of your grinding surfaces glazed with a shiny little hard slick. It's almost like hard candy in texture, of the resin. We don't want that. It's very messy. If you do have to process using a mortar and pestle, again, chill, work in small batches, use more of a pounding method to break it up as opposed to grinding around and around, which is going to cause friction, heat, and glazing. And you should be okay. If for any reason you end up with a glazed mortar and pestle, keep in mind that the resin is soluble either in oil or in alcohol, and you can clean up on that basis. There may be some gum present. That will be cleaned up with soap and water, but I would suggest you start with the oil or alcohol and then continue on to end with soap and water. So I'm just going to dump this in, put my little impromptu cover on here, and okay, and this is the last bit of the ground frankincense. It's, as you can see, quite powdery. Now let me just tell you the premise of this recipe. Frankincense is probably going to be the limiting quantity of ingredient that you have. I have approximately 3 tablespoons. That is a 15 milliliter metric tablespoon, but as I said, an imperial tablespoon for those who live in the 3 countries that still use imperial measurements will be also fine. And the recipe that I have is conveniently given in proportions rather than exact measurements. So for 1 quantity of frankincense, in my case, 45 milliliters or 3 tablespoons, I need to add twice as much olive oil. So that means 6 spoons. And then I need to add half as much beeswax pastilles, which means 1.5 tablespoons. So as long as you stick with the same spoon for measurement, you could use cups as opposed to spoons if you had a lot of frankincense. You could use any volumetric measurement. I wouldn't suggest using grams or ounces. Now I need to get my double boiler, the bottom part filled with water, and then we can start. While we wait and periodically stir, let me tell you a little bit about the magical properties of frankincense. Purification is probably the most significant process. Cleansing, general spirituality, uplifting your spirits, protection, courage. It is considered a masculine herb, ruled by the sun, and is associated with the element of fire. Its astrological sign is Leo. You may wonder how you can incorporate this frankincense preparation into your magical practice. If you're primarily intending to use it during a ritual, I'd suggest that you could anoint your forehead, or if your tradition has other specific body points that are anointed, that you use it in that capacity. And another possibility is that you're interested in the wellness aspects of frankincense, in which case you might use it in a couple of different ways. The antimicrobial properties of frankincense can be supportive of minor cuts and scrapes. Consider using it like that. It's also anti-inflammatory in nature, and it may promote joint and muscle wellness. So that is also a way that you can use it. A bit of a disclaimer: I am a magical herbalist, not a licensed medical practitioner. This spell preparation is intended to support your spiritual wellness and is not intended to replace medical advice or treatment. Herbs can have side effects. They can interact with medications, and they can adversely affect pregnant people. Discuss these risks with your healthcare provider. The olive oil has been simmering with the frankincense for 2 hours. Now what I need to do is strain out the gum, which was not dissolved by the oil, leaving a mixture of olive oil and frankincense resin and essential oils. It smells wonderful. Then I'm going to add the beeswax pastilles. and return it to the heat for about 15 minutes, maybe a little longer because my water has cooled. And I'll stir it often until all the pastilles have melted. Then I can fill the containers with it. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, it's dripping a little slowly, so I think this is gone. So I'm going to pour out, and I may stir it a bit after I've poured. It will depend on how it seems to be settling. Yeah, that's definitely thickening up and fast. So not quite 3 containers worth. I will leave them open until they cool, and then at that point I will cap the tins and this project will be done. From frankincense to frankincense salve in one easy day by using a heated infusion. These tins are cool now, so I know that I can cover them. You notice I've lighted a red candle here just to remind us that the element of fire is what rules frankincense. As I hold each jar in my hand, I'm thinking about the intentions that I poured into it at the beginning and reiterating them silently. And then I'm adding a label and a cover. You can expect the salve to last about 2 years if stored in a cool room. You'll know when it's gotten past its useful age because it will be a lot stickier and may have a slightly unpleasant odor as the oil has oxidized. I thank you for joining me today. Do look down below for a copy of the labels and the recipe. Both are available on my Ko-fi shop at no cost to you. Thank you for subscribing to the channel if you have, and if you haven't, I'd really appreciate it if you would. Be sure to give this video a like if you liked it. Ask any questions that you have about the making of the salve in the comments, and I will answer them. And as always, be well, be safe, be strong. Do one thing that practices your craft every day. Bye-bye.